The world we live in is full of scary places that you'd never want to find yourself in, like isolated islands where outsiders don't make it back, cursed lands with whispers of vanished souls, and hostile environments so extreme they turn visitors into cautionary tales. In today's video, we're diving into 15 of the most terrifying places on Earth, the kind of places where even the bravest think twice before stepping foot. And trust us, we're not here to ruin your fun. We're here to save your life because you can Google about these places. But going there is a whole different story. Let's kick off this list with number 15, the Castle of Good Hope. With a name like Castle of Good Hope, you'd expect something out of a fairy tale. Instead, this massive stone fortress in South Africa holds centuries of dark history and a chilling number of vengeful spirits. Built in 1666 by the Dutch East India Company, it originally served as a military base and later a prison during the Boer War. Its thick walls echo with the screams of prisoners who were tortured and hanged within its depths. The most infamous ghost? Governor Peter van Noot. After sentencing a prisoner to death, the man cursed him from the gallows, and hours later, the governor dropped dead of a heart attack. Now, his restless spirit stalks the castle, forever condemned. Visitors have also reported a ghostly black dog, shadowy figures, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. If you visit, be warned, you may leave with company. Number 14, St. Augustine Lighthouse. Lighthouses are isolated, claustrophobic, and historically eerie, but St. Augustine Lighthouse takes it to another level. With over 250,000 visitors each year, many come for the view, others for the paranormal encounters. One of the lighthouse keepers fell to his death while painting the tower, and to this day, his ghost still patrols the grounds. Guests and workers alike report seeing his shadowy figure still tending to his post. But the most heartbreaking spirits? 3 young sisters who drowned when their cart slipped into the ocean. Visitors and staff have heard their laughter echoing through the halls, their footsteps running up the spiral stairs, only to find no one there. For those brave enough, ghost tours are available, but be warned, many leave convinced they weren't alone. So, it's best to book a vacation for Dubai or Paris if you want to live a little longer. Number 13, North Sentinel Island. Hidden deep in the Bay of Bengal, North Sentinel Island is home to one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth, and they plan to keep it that way. The Sentinelese have lived in isolation for thousands of years, and they violently reject any attempt at contact. How violently? In 2006, 2 fishermen drifted too close to the island and were speared to death, their bodies left on display as a warning. When helicopters attempted to retrieve them, they were met with a hail of arrows. Then, in 2018, an American missionary ignored every warning and snuck onto the island to preach Christianity. He was last seen being dragged across the beach, his remains never recovered. The Indian government has banned all travel within 3 miles of the island. If you somehow land there, there's no negotiation, no escape. On North Sentinel Island, outsiders don't get second chances. Number 12, the Mariana Trench. The ocean is a mesmerizing place, with crystal clear waters and sun-kissed beaches that draw in millions. But dive a little deeper, scratch beneath the surface, and it quickly turns into a horror show. The Mariana Trench is the deepest part of the ocean, where the sun's light never reaches, and creatures that shouldn't exist thrive. This abyss, plunging over 35,000 feet down, has barely been explored. When researchers first descended in 1960, they expected emptiness. What they found instead were monsters. The dragonfish, with its translucent fangs. The goblin shark is a prehistoric predator straight out of nightmares. The sea devil anglerfish, its glowing lure the last thing prey ever sees. And then there are the creatures that shouldn't be that big, grown to absurd sizes thanks to deep-sea gigantism. a phenomenon that stretches life forms beyond their natural limits. But the most terrifying thing about the Mariana Trench? We don't know about it. Number 11. Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel. Thanks to The Shining, we all know hotels can be downright terrifying. But Canada's Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel doesn't just look like a haunted mansion, it actually is. Built in 1888, this towering castle-like hotel has hosted guests for over a century. Some of them, however, never left. The Ghost Bride is the most famous spirit here, a woman who fell to her death down a grand staircase on her wedding day. Now, guests have spotted her gliding through the halls, still dressed in her elegant white gown, as if searching for the first dance she never had. And then there's Sam the Bellman, a former employee who, upon retiring in 1975, promised to haunt the place forever. True to his word, guests report their luggage moving on its own, and Sam's ghost has even helped guests unlock their rooms. At least one ghost here is helpful, but the others, not so much. Number 10. The Island of Certain Death. If the mere thought of snakes makes your skin crawl, this place is your worst nightmare come to life. Off the coast of Brazil lies Ilha da Queimada Grande, also known as Snake Island, a place so deadly that the government has banned visitors unless accompanied by armed officials and a doctor. Why? Well, it's simple. Because the island is infested with 4,000 plus golden lancehead vipers, one of the most venomous snakes on the planet. These aren't your garden variety serpents. Their venom is so potent it melts flesh and kills within an hour. And since they evolved without natural predators, they've taken over the entire island, slithering through the trees, camouflaged in the underbrush, waiting for an unsuspecting meal. Legends tell of fishermen who set foot on the island and were never seen again. And if that doesn't convince you to stay far, far away, just know that if you get bitten, even the best medical help won't make it in time. Number 9. Gaiola Island. Just off the Gulf of Naples, surrounded by crystal-clear waters, sits Gaiola Island, a dream destination that, for reasons unknown, has become an epicenter of tragedy. Originally home to Roman ruins, the island eventually hosted a secluded villa. But something dark settled in. Its first known resident, Il Mago, the wizard, mysteriously vanished without a trace. Then, in the 1800s, the next owners fell into financial ruin, followed by a devastating shipwreck right offshore. In 1920, the new owners were murdered in cold blood, and every single resident after that met an untimely, gruesome fate. From suicides to tragic accidents, the body count grew, and locals soon declared the island cursed. Now, Gaiola Island is a protected site, part of an underwater park, but the villa remains abandoned, its eerie silhouette standing as a reminder that some places are better left alone. Number 8. Vozrozdenia Island. War breeds horrors beyond comprehension, and few places embody that terror more than Vozrozdenia Island. Once a remote island in the Aral Sea, it became home to a top-secret Soviet bioweapons lab, where scientists played God with death itself. For 40 years, Soviet researchers worked to weaponize smallpox, anthrax, and the bubonic plague, testing on animals in open-air experiments. They believed the island's isolation would keep the diseases from spreading. Then, the Aral Sea dried up, turning Vozrozdenia into part of the mainland. By the time the Soviet Union collapsed, the lab was abandoned, but its deadly secrets remained. Decontamination teams were sent in, but reports conflict. Some claim the area is safe, while others suggest the biological weapons are still buried beneath the sand. If one misstep unleashes what's left behind, the consequences could be catastrophic. Number 7. Island of the Dolls. What is it about dolls that make them so terrifying? Maybe it's their lifeless eyes or the way they always seem to be watching. And nowhere is that more unsettling than La Isla de las Muñecas. the island of the dolls. Located deep within Mexico's Xochimilco canals, the island became home to Don Julian Santana Barrera, a hermit who believed he was haunted by the ghost of a drowned girl. One day, a doll washed up on shore. He took it as a sign and hung it from a tree to appease her spirit. But one doll wasn't enough. For 50 years, he collected more and more. Hundreds now hang from the trees, rotting in the sun, eyeless, limbless, decayed. Locals swear the dolls move at night, their whispers carried on the wind. Even more disturbing? In 2001, Barrera was found drowned, in the same spot as the girl he feared. Some believe his spirit lives on through the dolls, waiting for more souls to join him. Number 6. Poveglia. A mass graveyard, a plague quarantine, a haunted asylum, Poveglia Island isn't just cursed, it's practically built on pure horror. Starting in the 18th century, Venice used Poveglia as a dumping ground for plague victims. A staggering 160,000 people were sent there to die in agony. Many were buried in mass graves, and legend has it that half the island's soil is made of human ash. Then came Napoleon, who turned it into a weapons depot, leading to even more death and bloodshed. But the real nightmare began in 1922 when a mental asylum opened. Patients screamed of ghostly figures tormenting them, but doctors dismissed it, until one deranged physician took it upon himself to conduct brutal experiments. His reign of terror ended when he fell, or was thrown, from the bell tower. And now his spirit roams the island. Even today, Poveglia remains off limits, its ruins standing as a chilling monument to centuries of suffering. Number 5. Nagoro, Japan. Deep in the mountains of Japan, there's a village where the dead never truly leave, not as spirits, but as life-sized dolls. In Nagoro, once a lively town, nearly all the residents moved away or passed on, leaving behind empty homes and abandoned streets. But one woman, Tsukimi Ayano, decided to bring them back by crafting hundreds of eerily realistic dolls to replace every lost soul. Now, more dolls than humans populate Nagoro, 10 to 1. They sit in classrooms, fishing by the river, waiting at bus stops. There's even a schoolhouse full of doll students and teachers, frozen in place as if the bell just rang. Visit during the day, and it's unsettling. But at night, good luck sleeping. The lifeless eyes of these figures seem to follow you, and the silence is deafening. And the scariest question remains: what happens when the last human here is gone? Well, only Japan, samurais, and Japanese know. We, well, don't. Number 4. Leap Castle. Deep in the heart of Ireland stands Leap Castle, a stone fortress with a history soaked in blood and betrayal. Built sometime between the 13th and 15th centuries, it became the backdrop for a Game of Thrones-level power struggle within the O'Carroll clan, one that ended in murder inside a church. During a family feud, one O'Carroll brother, who was a priest, was stabbed to death mid-sermon by his own kin. The room where it happened, now called the Bloody Chapel. And if that's not unsettling enough, renovations in the 1900s uncovered a hidden dungeon filled with so many skeletons that it took 3 full cartloads to remove them. The dungeon was designed with a trap door where victims would plunge onto spikes below, ensuring a slow, agonizing death, all while the O'Carrolls listened to their screams from the great hall above. Ghosts of tortured souls still roam the halls, forever trapped in this fortress of death. Number 3. Ramree Island. A tropical island sounds like paradise, unless that island is Ramree. This 520 square mile nightmare off the coast of Myanmar is home to an unsettling piece of history: the worst recorded animal attack on humans. During World War II, British and Japanese forces clashed on Ramree, with the Japanese retreating into the island's dense swamps. Bad move. They unknowingly walked straight into the territory of thousands of hungry saltwater crocodiles, some over 20 feet long. What happened next? A massacre. Survivors reported blood-curdling screams in the night as crocodiles dragged soldiers into the water, their bodies never seen again. Estimates vary. Some say hundreds, and others say nearly 1,000 were eaten alive. The Guinness World Records even recognized it as the greatest disaster ever suffered by humans at the hands of animals. Today, it is still crawling with apex beasts, and stepping foot there might just make you their next meal. Number 2, Hefty House. From world leaders to wandering spirits, Hefty House has hosted some very important guests. Overlooking the Reykjavik waterfront, this historic mansion has seen the likes of Ronald Reagan, Mikhail Gorbachev, and Winston Churchill. But it's not just politicians who frequent its halls. The real resident is something far more eerie. Meet the White Lady, a sorrowful specter believed to have died by suicide within the house. She doesn't just linger, she terrorizes. Over the years, so many guests have fled in terror that one British ambassador begged his government to sell the property. And they did. Immediately. Some Icelanders claim Hefty House was built over a Viking burial site, which might explain why it's also rumored that spirits of dead warriors occasionally raid the liquor cabinet. A haunted house and drunken ghosts? Maybe that's why the ambassadors left in such a hurry. Well, the world and the things that live in it are crazy. Number 1, Jasirat Al-Hamra. In a land of futuristic skyscrapers and mind-blowing luxury, Jasirat Al-Hamra stands frozen in time, a deserted ghost town sitting just 14 miles from modern civilization. Once a thriving pearl diving village, it was suddenly abandoned in 1968, and no one really knows why. Its crumbling buildings, eerie mosques, and abandoned homes still stand, whispering stories of the past. But locals claim the village isn't truly empty. Strange noises echo through the ruins. Footsteps in the sand where no one walks. Whispers in the wind with no source. Some believe jinn, ancient supernatural beings, roam the area, taking the form of animals and luring in the unsuspecting. Visitors who dare to enter report seeing shadowy figures, feeling unseen hands brush against them, and hearing distant blood-curdling screams. But the worst part? Once the sun sets, the village is known to come alive. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in with us, and we'll see you soon in the next one.